The General Overseas Service of All India Radio presents readings from an autobiography or the story of my experiments with truth. The reading from the autobiography is presented by Sri Gopalkrishna Gandhi, writer, teacher, and the youngest grandson of Kasturba Gandhi and Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. The words of the Mahatma in the voice of his grandson.
When I came to know him, I was startled at his love of luxury and extravagance. But at our very first meeting, he asked searching questions concerning matters of religion. We incidentally talked of Gautama Buddha's renunciation. Our acquaintance soon ripened into very close friendship, so much so that we thought alike, and he was convinced that he must carry out in his life the changes I was making in mine. At that time, he was single and was expending 1,200 rupees monthly on himself over and above house rent. Now he reduced himself to such simplicity that his expenses came to 120 rupees per month. I began fasting as a means of self-restraint. In this, Mr. Kallenbach also joined me. These important experiments were undertaken while we were at Tolstoy Farm, where Mr. Kallenbach and I were staying with a few Satyagrahi families, including young people and children. At the conclusion of the Satyagraha struggle in 1914, I received Gokhale's instructions to return home. It was a great wrench for me to part from Mr. Kallenbach, but I could see that his pang was greater. Could he have come to India, he would have been leading today the simple, happy life of a farmer and weaver. Now he is in South Africa, leading his old life and doing brisk business as an architect. The moment I reached Bombay, Gokhale sent me word that the governor was desirous of seeing me and that it might be proper for me to respond before I left for Pune. Accordingly, I called on His Excellency. After the usual inquiries, he said, "I ask one thing of you. I would like you to come and see me whenever you propose to take any steps concerning government." I replied, "I can very easily give the promise inasmuch as it is my rule as a Satyagrahi to understand the viewpoint of the party I propose to deal with and to try to agree with him as far as may be possible. I strictly observe this rule in South Africa and I mean to do the same here." I wanted to have an ashram where I could settle down with my Phoenix family, preferably somewhere in Gujarat. As being a Gujarati, I thought I was best fitted to serve the country through serving Gujarat. Gokhale liked the idea. I prepared to go to Shantiniketan. The teachers and students overwhelmed me with affection. The reception was a beautiful combination of simplicity, art, and love. I had intended to stay at Shantiniketan for some time, but fate willed otherwise. I had hardly been there a week when I received from Pune a telegram announcing Gokhale's death. The same day I left for Pune with my wife and Maganlal. Andrews accompanied me up to Burdwan. "Do you think," he asked me, "that a time will come for Satyagraha in India? And if so, have you any idea when it will come?" "It is difficult to say," said I. "For 1 year I am to do nothing. Gokhale took from me a promise that I should travel in India for gaining experience and express no opinion on public questions until I have finished the period of probation." 1915 was the year of the Kumbh fair, which is held at Haridwar once every 12 years. Gokhale's society had sent a big volunteer corps for service at the Kumbh. I joined the band. I was in those days strong enough to roam about a lot, and was fortunately not so known as not to be able to go in the streets without creating much fuss. During those roamings, I came to observe more of the pilgrims' absent-mindedness, hypocrisy, and slovenliness than of their piety. The swarm of sadhus who had descended there seemed to have been born to enjoy the good things of life. Here I saw a cow with 5 feet. I was astonished, but knowing men soon disillusioned me. The poor 5-footed cow was a sacrifice to the greed of the wicked. I learnt that the fifth foot was nothing else but a foot cut off from a live calf and grafted upon the shoulder of this cow. The result of this double cruelty was exploited to fleece the ignorant of their money. The Satyagraha Ashram was founded on the 25th of May 1915. Champaran, the land of Janaka, abounds in mango groves, so used to be full of indigo plantations until the year 1917. The Champaran tenant was bound by law to plant 3 out of every 20 parts of his land with indigo for his landlord. This system was known as the Tinkathya system, as 3 kathas out of 20, which make 1 acre, had to be planted with indigo. I must confess that I did not then know even the name, much less the geographical position of Champaran, and I had hardly any notion of indigo plantations. I had seen packets of indigo, but little dreamed that it was grown and manufactured in Champaran at great hardship to thousands of agriculturists. Rajkumar Shukla was one of the agriculturists who had been under this harrow, and he was filled with a passion to wash away the stain of indigo for the thousands who were suffering as he had suffered. Professor Kripalani spoke to me about the desperate condition of Bihar, particularly of the Tirhut division, and gave me an idea of the difficulty of my task. He had established very close contact with the Biharis and had already spoken to them about the mission that had taken me to Bihar. My object was to inquire into the conditions of the Champaran agriculturists and understand their grievances against the indigo planters. For this purpose, it was necessary that I should meet thousands of the ryots. But I deemed it essential before starting on my inquiry to know the planters' side of the case and see the commissioner of the division. I sought and was granted appointments with both. The secretary of the Planters Association told me plainly that I was an outsider and that I had no business to come between the planters and their tenants. The commissioner on whom I called proceeded to bully me and advised me forthwith to leave Tirhut. Champaran is a district of the Tirhut division, and the tenants belonging to the kothis in its neighborhood were the poorest in the district. Rajkumar Shukla wanted me to see them, and I was equally anxious to do so. So I started the same day. We had scarcely gone halfway when a messenger from the police superintendent overtook us and served on me a notice to leave Champaran. I did not propose to comply with it. Thereupon I received a summons to take my trial the next day for disobeying the order to leave Champaran. The news of the notice and the summons spread like wildfire. That day in Champaran was an unforgettable event in my life and a red letter day for the peasants and for me. According to the law, I was to be on my trial, but truly speaking, government was to be on its trial. The commissioner only succeeded in trapping government in the net which he had spread for me.
You just heard the reading from the Autobiography of Mahatma Gandhi, presented by Shri Gopalkrishna Gandhi, the youngest grandson of Kasturba Gandhi and Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi.